as you can see, I've got a really shiny face. That's because I am doing a mask. I love this brand of masks. I can't pronounce the name of it. I think they're called Montagna Genesis. Maybe I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. I'm sure you're all familiar with them. They have a whole host of different ones. And the one I'm using right now is a peelable mask. And obviously I'm not really supposed to be talking because it hardens and then you peel it off. But I was putting the mask on and it made me sort of think of like all of the masks that we wear as like individuals, either all of the time or at different times or to different people or in different situations. And I suppose like a mask can be so many different things, like the way we act or things that we're trying to hide. And for me, I suppose maybe like backstory would help here. So I know James and I mentioned a few vlogs ago, I think it was kind of like towards the start of when we started Vlogmas, which of course officially ended yesterday, so now we're just into general vlogs. But I have had a number of like health challenges all of my life and over the years. One of the two main ones that we actually always thought was one, but turns out that they were two separate independent things causing very similar symptoms or reactions in my body. One of them is I have a syndrome called polycystic ovarian syndrome, which I'm sure a great many of you are familiar with. It's a reasonably common syndrome. Apparently, it's believed about 10% of the female population have this syndrome, and what that means is that about 10% of the female population have one or many of the symptoms sort of associated with this syndrome. And one of the things among many that it can cause is infertility. Now, of the symptoms that are attributed to the syndrome, I have a great many of them, unfortunately, and the ones that I have tend to be in a very severe form. So I have things like the obvious overweightness. I have female pattern baldness, particularly sort of in this general area on the crown of my head. I have, and I can't actually pronounce it, hermatism. I think sounds very similar to that. Basically, it means that I have hair that grows where it shouldn't grow, for a woman at least. About, I would say a good 95% of my body is covered in hair. So basically, from my nose all the way down, and when I mean all the way down, I mean all of the way down. And unless obviously I treat it, or, well, in my case, shave it off, or for my legs, wax. It would be very, very thick, almost like a man's body. I'm sure if I let it grow to its full extent, it might be even thicker than that. I don't have diabetes, thankfully, yet, but I do have hypoglycemia. Chances are I will progress to diabetes at some point during my lifetime. My mother is a diabetic. I have infertility problems. I was, for all intents and purposes, infertile. But thankfully that does seem to be changing. I think we mentioned before that last year I had an operation to remove a tumour that I've had, which is, I suppose, the other independent thing but causing similar problems. I had a testosterone producing tumour called a teratoma, and I've had that since conception, but they only discovered I had it since conception when obviously they removed and did testing and whatnot on it. But all these things resulted in a great deal of hormone imbalance and things going on in my body that shouldn't have been going on at all and shouldn't have been going on for a woman. So thankfully, since that operation, it has sort of counterbalanced some of the things that were happening for me. I do still have the polycystic ovarian syndrome as well. So I still have kind of challenges relating to that, but thankfully since the removal of the tumour, things are getting better. But I suppose one of the biggest masks I wear or try to wear is when it comes to the excess body hair, which obviously for a woman is a very big kind of like challenge, and it's something that makes you feel very, very unfeminine. For an example, obviously most women, if not all women, have hair on their legs. Very common, we all deal with it. But I could shave my legs in the morning, and by that afternoon, there would already be new growth on them. I obviously have excess facial hair, my neck, my chest, my breasts, my stomach. When I say 90% of my body is covered in excess hair, I genuinely mean that. My cheeks, my forehead, the palms of my hands, the backs of my hands, and obviously the soles of my feet and the fronts of my feet are not covered in hair, thankfully. But everywhere else is, which is a really big challenge to deal with. I have tried laser removal. Unfortunately, it did not work for me at the time that I did it. Maybe since I've had the removal of the testosterone producing tumor, it might help things in a few years' time when my hormones have totally regulated. And hopefully if I've had a pregnancy, I might try it again. It's also very expensive, so of course you have to save up for that. But I suppose I started off this conversation talking about masks and that, but I suppose I just wanted to put it out there because I know when I was first diagnosed and first realized the extent of the symptoms that I was having, you kind of feel very, very, very alone, particularly because I like to call them challenges because thankfully none of the things I have, even the tumor, touch wood, didn't turn out to be life-threatening, and none of the symptoms or that I have associated with the syndrome are life-threatening, which is wonderful, because obviously there's a great deal of people out there who have terrible conditions and illnesses and things like that, and I'm very grateful that I'm not one of those people, but it still has a massive impact on your life. I am morbidly obese, clinically morbidly obese, and that is through a combination of a whole host of things. Obviously, the syndrome, laziness, lack of willpower. During the times where I have made great efforts to lose weight and to try and get a hold on that, because reduction in your weight can have a very positive impact on polycystic ovarian syndrome. But even that's a massive challenge. People with polycystic ovarian syndrome have great difficulty in losing weight. Even if they do sort of increase their exercise and reduce their calorie intake, half a pound a week is, sometimes the most you can achieve, which, obviously it's better off than on, but it can still be very demoralizing and very sort of challenging to keep up the motivation when it's taking you weeks and weeks and weeks, even just to lose a few pounds. So I suppose I really just wanted to kind of like say to everybody, because Christmas can be a challenging time with this kind of condition, because one, you're meeting loads of people, two, there's a lot of like social engagements and things to go out with, and you meet people and they look marvelous, and maybe you don't feel so great. Maybe you're kind of feeling, a little bit overweight, or having a fat day or week or month, or maybe your skin is flaring up. Acne is another major challenge for a lot of people with this syndrome. The excess hair, of course, it causes, you can't really see it now, but it causes a lot of redness on my neck, on my décolletage, the side of my face. If you're tired and you don't take care of it properly, it's very visible and very obvious. And you can go out and meet all these beautiful, glamorous friends and family members, and it can be upsetting. You're thrilled that they're looking great and wonderful, and it's wonderful to see them. But for you, it can be, a challenge. And particularly coming into January, where a lot of people decide that, they're going to get healthier and they're going to, make a difference in their lives and, exercise more and eat better and really get a control of like their syndrome and things like that. And it can take so very long, and you can see other people making great inroads into their efforts. And it can just be soul-destroying. And I suppose I just want to let other people know that, you're not alone. I have those, I'm not even going to say days, I have those weeks or months or even years where you just feel like you're fighting a losing battle. But I suppose we just kind of have to stick together and realize that we're not alone, that, there's obviously reasons. Sorry, getting a bit upset now, because it is, anybody out there who has polycystic ovarian syndrome, you'll understand, that you sort of think to yourself, well, I might be fat, and I might have acne, and I might be losing my hair. And that's the ironic thing, like I'm losing my hair on top. And I've got so much hair everywhere else, and you just kind of think it's a bit unfair. And then you can't have children yourself, or possibly at all for some people. And you just kind of think, could we have one little break? Give us something. And because the condition, despite 10% of the female population having this condition, it's still something that's massively, massively under-researched. And I suppose because it's not like a sexy condition, and as the name syndrome would suggest, they basically lump a whole load of symptoms or conditions under one syndrome. And so you could put maybe 5 or 6 women in a room, all with polycystic ovarian syndrome, and they all have very different symptoms and conditions as a result of it. So it's difficult to get a really good course of treatment, and you really just end up treating each of your symptoms almost independently, then as opposed to treating like the root cause or the root problem. So for me, I found it over the last 8 or 9 years since I was officially diagnosed extremely frustrating. And it's sort of hard to always stay positive, and I have no idea why I'm getting so upset now. My face is so shining, sorry. But yeah, so one of the things that James and I, following on from my surgery last year, I had I think it's called an oophorectomy. Basically, I had one of my ovaries removed. I still have one healthy ovary. I had to lose one ovary because the tumor was, sort of encompassing it. I have one ovary left. My hormone levels, my testosterone levels have returned to almost normal, or significantly reduced at least. And it does appear like my ovary is starting to work on its own. I think we mentioned in an earlier vlog that, not to be TMI or crude or anything, but my periods returned 4 months ago. And prior to that, I hadn't had a period in nearly 9 years. So that has definitely been an interesting development for us. I'm not currently ovulating, which obviously is disappointing, but we're still very hopeful because obviously we've had very positive changes since the operation. So that may return in the next few months, and that one of the things that James and I are concentrating on in the coming year or two is to try and have a family, or at least one baby, naturally ourselves, without the inclusion of medical assistance or help, because we've spent the last 9 years in and out of hospitals and fertility clinics and doctors and nurses and everything, and it's been a really traumatic time for us both, and for me obviously because I'm the one who has to go through everything. But yeah, so we've been given 9 months by our doctors just as a break, just to see what happens ourselves, and that was part of the reason we wanted to start this vlog. And I suppose we started with Vlogmas just to sort of like get into some sort of like rhythm or something with vlogging, but we wanted to share with you guys and anybody who is interested the journey that we will face in the pursuit of having a family, even though we're already 9 years in. Oh, well, almost 9 years in. Just because we felt very alone in the various things that we tried and did. And we just felt like there was nobody out there that we could talk to, you know, and that would have a real life experience of what we were going through. And so I suppose this is our way of hopefully maybe helping another couple who might be having a similar experience as we are. So for those of you out there who, because Christmas is very difficult when you would love to have a family and can't or haven't been able to, because obviously Christmas is all about family, it's particularly about children. And just want to, I suppose, reach out to those who are in the same situation as us to say that you're not alone. And I suppose the great thing about Christmas is that it's followed by a new year, and a new year is always filled with fresh hope. And so that's what I'm looking forward to. So for those who are feeling similar to what I am now, I just want you to know that I'm hopeful for us, for James and I, and for you guys too, that 2016 could very well be our year. And maybe this time next year, if we're still vlogging, hopefully we are, I could be sitting here with a baby or a big bump, or, you know, who knows? That's the thing, is we just don't know. And we never even thought, and we will of course share, you know, in the coming days and weeks and months, bits of the story with you. But James and I genuinely thought we would never be in a position today where we would even be possibly trying for a natural family ourselves. So things do change all of the time. You never know what's around the corner. And I realize I've just rambled and rambled and rambled for ages. But yeah, just, I suppose, have hope. Even though if you have polycystic ovarian syndrome, it's really shitty. And there's a lot of crap that you put up with. But yeah, have hope, and you never know what's going to happen around the corner. And I am now going to go and peel off my mask, because as you can see, it's all peeling around me. But if you do have polycystic ovarian syndrome, or if you're interested in following our journey, please do subscribe. Leave a comment below, say hello. I suppose we'll share as much as we can, and we'd probably share more if people are more interested in it. So we'll just see where this goes. But that's kind of our purpose, or our kind of goal for this going forward, at least. So yeah, I think I'm going to sign off and leave it here today, because we're just kind of taking it easy, and as you can see, I'm very emotional, and yeah. So thank you for watching, and I hope you guys are all having a great day too. Bye.